Hello Africa and the rest of the world. Welcome to News Central Studios, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm Sulaiman Lede, and these are the headlines this hour. At least 5 people killed as protesters demand a return to civilian rule in Chad. President CYRIL RAMAPHOSA urges South Africans not to give up the journey as the nation celebrates Freedom Day. Nigeria wants the United States to relocate its African military headquarters in Germany to the continent. Details of these and more after now. The news begins in Central Africa, where at least 5 people have been killed and 27 wounded following street clashes in Chad, as protesters demand a return to civilian rule. Defying a ban on protest imposed by the military, demonstrators took to the streets of the capital N'Djamena and other urban centers. Protesters burned tires in several neighborhoods, and a Reuters witness said firefighters struggled to contain a blaze that was large enough to be seen from far away. Tensions have been high in Chad since the sudden death last week of President Idris Deby, who ruled the impoverished desert country for 3 decades. He was killed on April 19 as he visited troops fighting rebels. Earlier, News Central spoke to journalist Felix T on the restoration of peace in Chad.
People from Chad say there are many injured people. And you know, now internet has been cut. It's hard to get information out of the country. The people are very angry. They want the military council, transitional council, to leave. They also want the military, the Chadian officials to cut ties with. It is hard to really know what is happening now on the ground. We know 2 people have been killed, injured. The protest would not stop now because the people are very determined. We know that protest started in Chad even before Deby's death. So it is something that will ongo. The military has deployed troops all over the country, especially in N'Djamena and in Mundu. We hope that there will not be a lot of casualties. Somehow, military has banned the protest. You know, yesterday the Prime Minister said, he was asked what he thinks about the protest. He said people have the right to protest. He didn't elaborate more on this, but unfortunately today when the people went to the streets, they deployed troops to block them. So this shows that the Prime Minister, who was appointed yesterday, he doesn't really know, or he's not in control of most of issues of the country.
In the meantime, French President Emmanuel Macron has emphatically condemned the repression of the demonstrations and the violence that took place this morning in N'Djamena, the capital of Chad. The French president's position is a shift from a previous support for the military council and its civilian allies. Macron called for a civilian unity government to be put in place to run Chad, a former French colony, until elections are held within 18 months. The military council has said it plans to oversee the transition headed by Mohamed Idris Deby, who's been declared president. From Chad, we go to South Africa. Today marks 27 years since the first democratic election in South Africa. President CYRIL RAMAPHOSA, in his address, has urged South Africans not to give up in the journey and quest for true freedom. News Central's Chidima Ihenatu tells us more.
Freedom Day is a public holiday in South Africa, celebrated on the 27th of April. It celebrates freedom and commemorates the first post-apartheid elections held on that day in 1994. The elections were the first non-racial national elections where everyone of voting age of over 18 from any race group including foreign citizens permanently resident in South Africa, were allowed to vote. Previously, under the apartheid regime, non-whites in general had only limited rights to vote, while black South Africans had no voting rights whatsoever. The celebration marks 27 years since the first democratic election, and President CYRIL Ramaphosa, in his traditional annual address, saluted those who fought for the nation's freedom.
We particularly salute the resistance of the women of the Free State, who embarked on a massive campaign of defiance against the past laws in 1913 and a number of years thereafter.
The president did also recognize those who, for certain reasons, true freedom may be elusive.
For those who continue to suffer from the lack of basic services like running water, for those living without proper sanitation, as many of our people live under such conditions here in Botshabelo, for those living in fear every day from violence and crime, and for those who have no jobs to support themselves and their freedom and their families, true freedom still remains elusive.
South Africa is one of the African countries that has been worse hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the president didn't fail to point it out.
Every South African will need to remain part of the fight to overcome COVID-19. We are still in the midst of the pandemic, and the likelihood of a third wave of infections remains ever present.
South Africans were urged not to give up in the journey and quest for true freedom, as it will take a collective effort. Happy Freedom Day. Chidima Ihanitu, New Central Television.
I'm now being joined by political activist and researcher Dale McKinley in South Africa to unpack this for us. Many thanks for joining us, McKinley. Now, what's the mood in South Africa at the moment?
Well, I think that depends very much on who you talk to. I think the first thing is that most South Africans would say this is a day to celebrate. It was a fundamentally historic, important democratic victory in 1994, and it should never be forgotten and never be taken for granted. At the same time, 27 years later, South Africa is faced with huge, huge problems. We are the most unequal country in the world. We have huge amounts of poverty, joblessness, crime, things that the president mentioned, these challenges. So for many people, this is not a day for necessarily celebration, but a day to be reminded that there is still a long way to go, as the president said, to true freedom for a lot of South Africans.
You know, one of the key things you mentioned has to do with jobs. We've seen South Africans complain about losing jobs meant for South Africans to other Africans. Does this resonate with those who are out of job?
Well, I don't think it's the majority of South Africans. I think, unfortunately, we have some politicians in our country, particularly some opposition politicians, but also from the ruling party, who have taken advantage of people's desperation and have played up the supposed threat of foreign nationals taking jobs and taking other kinds of economic opportunities. This is simply not true. Research has shown again and again that foreign nationals in South Africa contribute to the economy. I think the relationships with most people are fairly cordial, but you have those that want to take advantage, that want division because it serves their political agenda and their purposes for getting into political power. It's very, very unfortunate, but it's still very much a challenge in South Africa today.
And President Ramaphosa has used the word quest to pursue the quest for true freedom. What do you think he means by true freedom?
I think what he means by true freedom is freedom from want. Freedom to be able to have productive work, freedom to be able to not have to worry about where your next meal is coming from, freedom to not have to be homeless and living in the streets, and freedom to be able to say and do what you want to do without feeling threatened, by criminal activity. So I think mostly we have the political freedoms in South Africa, but our socioeconomic freedoms are falling short for a large majority of the people. Fortunately, our president realizes this, and I think he's heading in the right direction, but there's still a long, long way to go to achieve the kind of freedom that many, many people fought for and thought that was possible in 1994 when we had the democracy in South Africa.
But is the government doing enough to ensure that that freedom, as guaranteed by the Constitution of South Africa, is given to the people?
Well, I think they could do a lot more. There is a huge degree of disillusionment in this country with regards to the ANC, or sections of the ANC, should I say, who have been guilty of massive mismanagement of public resources, of corruption, many of the same problems that afflict our continent and much of the world these days. People taking advantage, greediness, selfishness, not being serving the public. So the ANC needs to look in the mirror, and I think they need to realize that the liberation struggle was fought not for making a few people wealthy or gaining a lot more power, but for true redistribution of wealth and resources. And in South Africa, that freedom remains elusive. So the ANC still has a long way to go, and the politicians need to pull up their socks and to represent the people. Otherwise, I think they'll soon find themselves out of a job.
Political activist and researcher Dale McKinley, many thanks for unpacking this for us.
Thank you.
Now from South Africa, we go to Sierra Leone. The West Africa country is celebrating its 60th independence today with little or no festivities owing to the observance of COVID-19 measures. President Julius Maada Bio, in his presidential speech, appealed to the citizens to always foster peace and unity of the nation, reflecting on the growth of the country in the past 60 years. And News Central's Omolola Ololade has more on this.
Located in Western Africa, Sierra Leone lies in the heart of Africa's savanna and rainforest, bordered by Liberia to the southeast and Guinea to the northeast. A country of about 8 million people, Freetown, the capital, is also the largest city. The West African country gained independence on April 27, 1961, from the United Kingdom. Sierra Leone's first president after independence was Siaka Stevens, leader of the APC party, while its first prime minister was Milton Magai. With the country marking 60 years of independence today, President Julius Maada Bio hosted fellow West African leaders at the State House, including Vice President Yemi Osinbajo of Nigeria, President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, Adama Barrow of the Republic of the Gambia, amongst others. It was a low-key celebration amid growing and widespread economic adversity, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic.
Those who embraced their leadership.
In a speech on the event, President Bio urged the citizens of the country to use the day to reflect on the past in order to work diligently for a shared future of peace and prosperity that the nation deserves.
We are reminded in the words of our national anthem that we must show forth the good that is in Sierra Leone. To that end, we should remind one another often that our conduct, attitudes, and values affect other citizens and our nation directly and indirectly. This 60th commemoration of our country's independence is therefore a watershed moment in our nation's history. We must use it to reflect on the past only as it helps us avoid the worst of the past and work diligently for a shared future of peace and prosperity that our nation truly deserves.
Meanwhile, residents have urged the government to use the opportunity to ensure national cohesion and political tolerance. Although the country has its own unique challenges, Sierra Leoneans are proud of their heritage and how far they have come after 60 years of independence, while hoping that the country will continue to get better.
One of the most things I'm very proud about being Sierra Leone is that we've actually come very long in our time. like we've become so independent, and each day we keep progressing. Like our government is starting to progress more, us in the music industry, us as people, like we're really doing well in the world. And I feel like each day it's becoming better. And I feel like one day, like the world will actually see us more.
Happy Independence Day, Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leoneans celebrate their 60th independence. A bit of security challenges in other parts, especially in West Africa. Security officials in Burkina Faso say 4 people have been kidnapped near the Pama Nature Reserve on the eastern border with Benin Republic and Niger Republic. The 4 comprise a soldier in Burkina Faso's army, 2 Spanish nationals and a conservation worker from Ireland. They were ambushed on the road near the reserve. Burkina Faso is facing a deepening security crisis like many of its neighbors, and Islamist armed groups carry out raids and kidnappings across much of the region. Officials at Ireland's foreign ministry say they are liaising with local authorities over their missing citizen. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has called on the United States to move its African military headquarters to the continent from Germany. President Buhari made the request on Tuesday during U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's online virtual visit to Africa. The president said his call was based on the growing challenges in West and Central Africa, Gulf of Guinea, Lake Chad region, and the Sahel. He adds that the security situation in those countries underscored the need for the United States to consider relocating Africom headquarters near the theater of operation. Joining me for more on the security situation in Nigeria and the continent is Kabir Adamu, a security expert. Good to see you, Kabir. Quickly here, in the last 4 days, there's been school kidnappings, attacks on IDPs, attacks on police divisions, and even the army. And these are just the reported incidents. What really do you think is going on in Nigeria?
Unfortunately, Suleiman, it appears we are facing an unprecedented collapse of the security infrastructure or architecture in Nigeria, where non-state actors are openly challenging the supremacy of the use of the instruments of coercion by the state. And in most of the times where these challenges occur, they appear to be successful. And so every time that incident occurs, other non-state actors seem to be emboldened, and so we're seeing more and more of such security challenges spreading across the country. It's been said that the last time Nigeria recorded this type of unprecedented collapse was in pre the 1967 Civil War. And
is there a silver bullet that can fix the security situation in Nigeria, or is it as complicated as many are made to think?
So a lot of it is in the hands of the politicians. How are they going to create a balance in the disparate nature that exists in Nigeria? How are they going to address the perceptions of grievances and the real grievances that occur in Nigeria, and in doing so, provide the platforms for law enforcement agencies to play their role? Then how are they going to enhance the capacity and capability of these law enforcement agencies and security organizations? How are they going to ensure that this security organization play by the book and work together as one? So really a lot depends on the actions and the activities of politicians, both in the ruling party and in the opposition parties.
Do you think the call by President Muhammadu Buhari asking the U.S. Secretary General to move Africom away from Germany to the continent will help in solving the security challenge across the Sahel, Gulf of Guinea, and some other places around the West Africa?
So frankly, Suleiman, I never thought that in my lifetime I would witness such a call. If you remember a few years back, such a call would never have come from Nigeria, for the simple reason that there is a strong opposition to the presence of US base anywhere in Africa by a significant number of Nigerians. I remember when under the Obasanjo administration, this issue came up, there was significant opposition to it. So it's amazing that the tides have changed, and we're seeing the highest level of diplomatic representation in Nigeria calling for location of the base in Africa, even though we didn't hear the statement going as far as saying that the base should be located in Nigeria, but it appears that even that is not off the table. Now, will it solve the myriad of security challenges affecting Nigeria? If we divide the security challenges into two, those that are driven by external forces, for instance, the collapse of Libya and the civil war that ensued, and the weapons that are trickling in, and the spread of global jihadism, especially its root in the Sahel, and how that is affecting Nigeria, then the answer is yes. However, the local grievances, the local governance issues that are giving rise or that are pushing and pulling the security challenges, there is no external influence that will take care of that. It's an issue of governance, and it must be handled in the home by us, by our leaders, and with our support as Nigerians.
Well, just as politics is local, this particular security situation in Nigeria is also local. Do you think that the progression being witnessed from kidnap of high school and junior school students now to university students, is that a thing that the government of the country would be needing mercenaries or outside help, calling for the move of Africom to the continent?
Suleiman, I'm of the opinion that we haven't exhausted our local and internal resources. Perhaps when we exhaust our local or internal resources, then the call for external support for me would make a lot of sense. We've got several aspects of our national security architecture that are not functional at the moment. I refer to the several councils that we have that are the highest levels of consultation within the security architecture. They are not holding. The last one that held was the National Security Council, and frankly, it only considered some aspects of the issues that we're discussing. I didn't see a robust, council that would discuss some of these issues that we're discussing here. Beyond that, the kind of engagement between the federal and state governments, I have not seen that yet. Perhaps in the councils, the president can expand the councils to include the governors. A good example is the National Counterterrorism Strategy. That document was, if I remember well, introduced in 2014. I cannot remember the last time that document was reviewed. What parts of those documents are we implementing? How come it's only the military that is involved in that document? What is the role of the other 23 ministries, departments, and agencies in the implementation of that document? The countering violent extremism aspect of that national counterterrorism strategy, who has embraced it? How come I'm not hearing any governor speaking about the CVE component of the national counterterrorism strategy, including governors from the Northeast, where terrorism is at its peak? There are so many things that we can talk about that I believe within the national security architecture, we've not exploited. Perhaps if we do that, and then we're not seeing these issues being managed, then we can talk about external forces. We can talk about accountability. We can talk about the need for persons who have dropped the ball to take responsibility for their actions. I have not seen that in the last few years. In both the military and several other security departments, you see infractions, you see challenges, and you see clear negligence of duty, and frankly, no accountability. So until all of this is done, and then perhaps for me, the discussion around external support would be considered.
Well, I have to let you go. Kabir Adamu, security expert, many thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you, Suleiman. Stay safe.
Well, in North Africa, Egypt has executed 9 people found guilty of killing 13 policemen during the unrest in 2013 following the removal of Mohamed Morsi from power. The 9 were a part of a group of 20 people sentenced to death for the attack on a police station after security forces broke up a mass sit-in protest in Cairo by supporters of Morsi. Hundreds of protesters were killed. Amnesty International has condemned the executions as saying it is a horrifying example of the Egyptian authorities' contempt for the right to life. Now, the bodies of 17 would-be migrants from Africa have been found in a small boat off Spain's Canary Islands. Spain's Maritime Rescue Service found only 3 survivors. The woman and 2 men were taken to hospital by helicopter. The migrants were discovered by a search plane about 500 kilometers south of the island of Hierro. The UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, estimates that more than 400 migrants died trying to cross into Europe from Africa in 2020. Coming up, updates on the coronavirus pandemic across Africa as park rangers in Kenya get vaccinated to revive the nation's tourism sector. Details of this story and more when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, around 250 tour guides from Kenya's famed national parks are receiving the COVID-19 vaccines today in downtown Nairobi as a part of a government effort to revive the tourism sector that has been adversely affected by the pandemic. The vaccination drive comes ahead of the annual wild beast migration across the Masai Mara National Reserve. Some of the guides traveled to the capital to receive the shot from Amboseli National Park, which is beloved by tourists for its elephants and view of towering Mount Kilimanjaro across the border in Tanzania. Now, Kenya's tourism sector lost close to $1 billion in revenue between January and October of last year, when the number of foreign visitors plunged by 2/3 due to COVID-19. Now, health authorities are relocating about 75% of the Democratic Republic of Congo's 1.7 million AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine doses to other African countries. This is to make sure the vaccine doses are used before they expire. UNICEF senior health specialist for the UN in West and Central Africa, Susie Villeneuve, said 1.3 million doses will be sent to Ghana, Senegal, and Togo to ensure they are used before their June 24 expiry date. Now, Congo received the doses from the COVAX vaccine sharing facility on March 2, but delayed the rollout after several European countries suspended use of the AstraZeneca shot in response to reports of rare blood clots. Malawi has imposed a travel ban to and from Bangladesh, Brazil, India and Pakistan following the severe spreading of the new COVID-19 wave in those countries. Malawi Minister of Health, Kumbize Kandodo Chiponda, declared the ban in an update on COVID-19 in the country. Chiponda, who co-chairs the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, said the decision was taken after the current trend of the pandemic in the country compared to the 4 listed countries. She said those undertaking essential travel to and from the named countries will undergo mandatory institutional quarantine at designated hotel accommodation at their own cost on arrival into the country. Still ahead, a European Member of Parliament has been detained for links to the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party. Details of this story and more after now. European parliamentarian Ioannis Lagos has been detained by Belgian police after members voted to lift his immunity. Lagos has been facing jail for crimes linked to the neo-Nazi Golden Dawn Party. Reports say the 48-year-old was arrested after Belgian police had responded to an Interpol notice filed by their Greek colleagues. The MP was convicted last October along with the rest of the party leadership of running a criminal organization. Although the court jailed him for more than 13 years, he was given immunity because he is an elected European MP. The United Nations has called for political dialogue, sanctions and arms transfer decisions to ensure respect for the law and protection of civilians. UN Humanitarian Chief Mark Lowcock made the call while addressing the United Nations Security Council on protection of civilians. Lowcock said that over the last 30 years, there's been some progress in the compliance with international humanitarian law to protect civilians. However, at the same time, big military powers are reorienting military planning, training, and spending to deter and defeat enemy states. The humanitarian chief also noted ways to strengthen the protection of civilians and objects indispensable to their survival. In business today, Egypt's finance minister says the country expects its domestic debt to be euro-clearable, whatever that means. Tolulope Adelero Balogun tells us more.
Thank you so much, Suleiman. So we start business in Northern Africa, where Egypt's finance minister Mohamed Miat says the country expects its domestic debt to be euro-clearable and open to a larger number of foreign investors by November. He added that Egypt also expects to join JP Morgan's GBIEM Investment Index in a listing that could lift its local currency bond markets. The minister presented details of Egypt's strategy for managing its debts, which include reducing debt interest payments as a proportion of gross domestic product to 6.9% by 2023-2024 from 8.8% this financial year. Egypt and Ukraine have been placed on review for joining the widely tracked index and expect to receive a decision within the next 6 months. The unbanked majority in Nigeria's real sector have been neglected for years, but the coming of online banking and digital banking has brought more people into the financial fold and increased financial inclusion. More in this report.
Nigeria's financial inclusion landscape has been rough, but many new players are creating channels and products to satisfy many clients. Some stakeholders mentioned how they are contributing to the increased banking population in Nigeria.
Last year happened to be our first year. We launched our consumer finance products that gave, the lower end of the curve opportunity to have access to, finance to really be able to meet some of their basic needs and, business related for the year. So for us, we keyed in immediately and we saw opportunity there, and I can tell you it's been a positive ride down the line because that gave us rise to a lot of opportunity within last year, and now we have developed almost 3 different products to really be able to drive in the financial inclusion and giving our support.
Another player in the financial services sector had this to say.
We specialize in the design, implementation, and provision of payment solutions across the Nigerian spectrum. So our products are not limited to, we're licensed by the CBN, so we have a PTSP license, a PSSP license, and we're also a switching company. And we're also a super agent on behalf of the CBN. So basically, we're providing banking services to the underserved. That's one of the CBN's key directives, which is
financial inclusion is advancing at leaps and bounds in Nigeria. This should further enhance the development of the microeconomy in Nigeria and indeed Africa.
And now to the skies. The aviation industry is still struggling to survive the effects of the pandemic on air travel, but there is some good news coming from Nigeria's aviation sector for tourists and travelers. This is because more international airports in Nigeria will soon resume operations. The details in this story.
The Cold War between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates seems to be heading for a warm ending, and flights from the UAE could resume via the Emirates airline anytime soon.
We deliberated extensively on this matter, and the gap has been significantly closed between the position of Nigeria and UAE. They've actually met some of our requirements, and we're just waiting for one confirmation. And very shortly, an announcement will be made on the outcome. Very shortly, hopefully within the next 48 hours, we'll make an announcement on that.
During the briefing, the Director General of Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Musa Nuhu, explained the latest developments concerning airports in Nigeria.
3 airports, Kano, Port Harcourt, and Enugu, were cleared by PTF to resume international flights. Kano has resumed. Port Harcourt is almost there. Just a few things to close there. In the next couple of days, we expect Port Harcourt to be released for the resumption of international flights. Hopefully in a couple of weeks, Enugu, Akanu Ibiam International Airport, Enugu, will join the list, making it a total of 5 international airports. All the 5 international airports in Nigeria resuming international operations.
Also, hopefully, this development will help revive the aviation industry in Nigeria.
And still talking tourism, which we know is a main revenue source for many countries across Africa. Travel and tourism are major contributors to the African economy, responsible for about 7% of Africa's GDP. The sector also contributed over 9 million jobs in the employment on the continent. On Business Edge today, Chiamaka Obweku, founder and CEO of Social Prefect Tours, explained what happens in the industry after COVID.
A collaboration I would like to see is actually the government collaborating, especially in Africa, with the tourism industry.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like to see the government collaborating with airlines and, making the taxes a little bit, less, so that airfares aren't too expensive. Yeah. Airfares are exorbitant in Africa. They are they are on a high.
And it's cheaper sometimes to travel out of the continent to Europe than to travel in the continent.
It's crazy. And you ask yourself why. Within Europe, you can travel from, one country to another for as low as maybe like £20 or 20 euros. But in Africa, you cannot do that. Yeah. You literally cannot do that. And that's something that we need to start, we need to bring more into the conversation and to ask ourselves more questions. So if the government is willing to collaborate and maybe reduce taxes or make it a level playing ground or, encourage these airlines, I think, it would really, really boost tourism.
And as we wrap things up on business, Namibia's Agriculture Ministry says the country is struggling to focus, but a further 28 million Namibian dollars is urgently needed to contain them. And that's business. I'm Tolulokwe Adeleru Balogun. It's back to Suleiman for NC Continental Prime.
Well, now hold on my phone. There's been quite a number of reports today, and it's time to get some reactions about the trending stories. Let's see what Sheung Bankole has for you on the trending stories.
Welcome to NC Trends. I am Sheung Bankole. Nigeria is trending on social media as a result of the incessant killings, banditry, and kidnapping that have occurred in the country in the last few years. This peaked yesterday when 5 of the kidnapped students of Greenfield University, Kaduna, were killed. Reacting to the bad incident, Nigerian celebrity Banky W said, "So much bad news in Nigeria every day. We have become numb to it. If it's not murder and kidnapping, it is unrest and people unfit for office calling the shots. It's like we are in an abusive relationship with the country we love. It's exhausting, it's draining, it's depressing." Moving on, we also had a reaction from Onye Nkuzi, who says, "We started with secondary school kids either being murdered or kidnapped in remote corners of northern Nigeria. But now, university students are kidnapped and murdered right next to Abuja. One thing about Nigeria is no matter how bad things are, they can get worse." Also reacting to the bad incident was Jaja PhD, who says, "Yesterday was one of Nigeria's bloodiest days. I hope we never see such a day again. Amen. Also, I pray that today will be so much better. Amen. May we not lose those that we love." South Africa is trending today as they celebrate their Freedom Day 2021. Some of the reactions on social media, this one from @vlog_Andre, who says, "Today I will celebrate our freedom won at such awful expense. Tell me about it. I will also be concerned about the freedoms that we are abusing, the freedoms that we are not valuing, the freedoms that we are at risk of losing, and I will remind myself how fragile these freedoms are. #Freedom Day." Also, we have a tweet from @ChangeAgentSA, who says, "So many thoughts and feelings. It's a day of deep reflection for me. As we look at why we celebrate this day, we are reminded of the privilege of freedom, democracy, and justice. Yet so few truly live with real access to freedom. We need to continue fighting for it. #Freedom Day." Finally, on that, we have @TheRealPizzo, who says that may we never forget what our freedom means, and may we always safeguard it for the generations that will follow once we are no longer here. #Freedom Day, #Freedom Day 2021. Finally, to the last trend for today is Sierra Leone. Yes, Sierra Leone is 60 today. And as they celebrate their National Day, many Sierra Leoneans have gone to social media to react to their National Day as they commemorate their 60th independence. We have this tweet from @ILRAJ2, who says that we pledge our devotion, our strength, and our might, thy cause to defend and to stand for thy right. Happy Independence Day, compatriot. #Sierra Leone Independence. Moving on, this tweet from @Hams_X says, "Really happy to see the young generation of Sierra Leone taking pride in their country. Now it's our turn to make this country a better place. We need to be the future that makes a difference. #Land that we love." Finally, on the Sierra Leone tweet, we have Basita Michael say that Sierra Leone, we want to see you better. We want your history to matter. You don't have to be stuck with the ills of the past. Have the courage to change, end the politics of revenge. Take us to a proud new beginning where the values of human dignity, equality, and justice matter. Happy anniversary. Also from News Central TV, we say happy anniversary, Sierra Leone. That's all on NC Trends. Back to Sulai for the rest of the news.
Sure, many thanks. I just love your energy. Anyway, quite a whole lot has been happening. Organizers of tennis orders competition are doing away with an old tradition of the tournament. Onyobara has the story and more.
Sulai for that, of course, trying to take away the old tradition, bring in new ones. But in the world of sport right now, we begin in tennis, where Wimbledon plans to abandon its traditional rest day, known as the Mid-Sunday, from 2022. The Grand Slam will instead be played over 14 consecutive days, with All England Lawn Tennis Club chairman Ian Hewitt saying this was possible because of the better grass court maintenance. Organisers also said that they're hoping to have fans at a minimum of 25% capacity this year. Wimbledon was cancelled last year because of the coronavirus pandemic, and while it will return on the 28th of June, there are also several aspects to be finalised. All right, to Kenya now. In athletics, world marathon record holder Eliud Kipchoge has been vaccinated of COVID-19 as he steps up preparations for Tokyo Olympics, fresh from winning the NN Mission Marathon just over a week ago. Kipchoge was among athletes who got the jab at the Kenyatta University Teaching Hospital, the research referral hospital. The 36-year-old took the vaccine alongside his training mates, including Olympic 1,500 meters champion Faith Kipyegon and former half-marathon world record holder Geoffrey Kemrow. Kipchoge, of course, encouraged everyone to get vaccinated, saying it is important in the fight against coronavirus. Okay, we fight and won there. Tunisia Esperance have won the African Clubs Volleyball Championship today, Tuesday, for the 5th time in its history, after beating rival Zamalek of Egypt in the final match, which was held in Tunisia. Now, in the Boussiat Hall, Esperance won the game without a response as follows: 25-20, 25-23, and 25-10. With the coronation, Esperance was equal to Zamalek in the number of times crowned the titles, which are a score of 5 times each, as Esperance held previously won the competition in 94, in 98, in 2000 and 2014. Now moving on to football-related matters, Bayern Munich have announced that RB Leipzig manager Julian Nagelsmann will join the Bundesliga champions at the end of the season on a 5-year contract. This comes after Bayern's current manager Hansi Flick said last week that he wanted to leave the Bavarian club. Now, 33-year-old Nagelsmann is one of the most highly rated young managers in Europe and led Leipzig to a Champions League semi-finals last year. The German, who will take over on the 1st of July, will reportedly cost Bayern more than £20 million in compensation. All right. Okay, looking at this right now to South Africa, where the body controlling the game of cricket has stepped back from the brink of an international crisis as officials announced that the differences between the two rival factions battling for governance of the game had been resolved. In a joint statement, the members of the Council of Cricket South Africa and the interim board announced that an agreement had been reached on a new governance model. The deal came 2 days after the country's sport minister, Nathi Methwa, gave notice that he would withdraw recognition of the Cricket South Africa, which could be resulted into being suspended from the International Cricket Council. A suspension by the ICC would have to put the participation of both the men's and women's team in an international matches at risk. Now, to crown it up, the UEFA Champions League, an update there, where Chelsea and Real Madrid are sharing spoils. It all ended 1-1 over there. I'm very sure that, Sulaiman, you're not a Chelsea fan. But that wraps up on the sport news today. I am Onyechi Obaru. Over now to you. I'm hoping you're not a Chelsea fan.
Well, if you really want to know, I've always done the local league, like Aimba of Abba, and of course, Bendel Insurance. So,
it's a good one. Go local. Thank you so much.
I haven't actually gone to Europe. Yeah. Thank you very much. Well, a South African production won in the Best Documentary category at the 93rd Academy Awards on Sunday. But which other works from the continent have won or almost won an Oscar? Entertainment Desk put together a rundown of African films celebrated at the awards since its inception in 1927.
Award shows within the entertainment industry have long celebrated exceptional performances and creativity, whether it's in theatre or music. The 93rd Academy Awards, properly called the Oscars, held over the past weekend, and South Africa's My Octopus Teacher won the award for Best Documentary Feature. Making it South Africa's second Academy Award till date, the Netflix original documentary follows a forging relationship between the filmmaker Craig Foster and a wild common octopus in the southern African kelp forest.
That's right, my dove.
Historically, though the Oscars hasn't been wide enough in inclusivity, here are some African films that have made it all the way. The first ever African film recognition was at the 41st Academy Awards in 1969. Credited to Algeria, the film Zed became a winner in the Best International Feature Film category. Algeria is the only African nation with 4 nominations at the Oscars, the most recognized within the African continent at the Oscars.
That's a PG rating.
Black and White in Color from Ivory Coast became Africa's second win. The film, directed by Jean Jacques, became Africa's second win at the Oscars.
Le fusil! Le fusil!
Hey man, you fucking get bad up, man.
South Africa's Tsotsi, directed by Gavin Hood, premiered in 2005 and became a winner at that year's Oscars. South Africa got her first nomination prior in 2004 for the film Yesterday. Other African countries that have been nominated include Mauritania and Tunisia, each being one-time nominees within the International Feature Film category. Speaking of other categories, South Africa's District 9 is the only African film ever nominated in the Film Editing, Best Picture, Visual Effects and Writing category at the Oscars. Released in 2009, the film was directed by Neil Blomkamp.
People are living in fear.
Indeed, African films are getting more recognition, telling stories that celebrate our language and culture.
Back in time there. Well, a new international study is predicting that ignoring signals of climate change and continuing business as usual will lead to extreme life-threatening heat waves in northern Africa and some parts of the Middle East. Now, the study, aimed at assessing emerging heat wave characteristics, was led by scientists from the Cyprus Institute and the Max Planck Institute for Chemistry. The scientists predict excessively high temperatures of up to 56 degrees Celsius and higher in urban settings, adding that the heat could last for multiple weeks. For what temperatures and precipitation to expect in other parts of the continent, our weather desk has more. A gift of a lot of sunshine there. That's it on the news at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. At least 5 people have been killed as protesters demand a return to civilian rule in Chad. President CYRIL RAMAPHOSA has asked South Africans not to give up the journey as the nation celebrates Freedom Day. Finally, we told you that Nigeria wants the United States to relocate its African military headquarters to the continent from Germany. You can also catch up with our news and programs. Just download the News Central TV mobile app on Play Store and iOS. You can also watch us live in Star Times, channel 274. I'm Sulaiman Alede. Many thanks for watching.